Governor Lamb, thank you for being with us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Great to see you. Great to visit with you.
Let's start off with a little bit of the story behind the man, behind the title, if you will. Tell us a little bit about the Lamb family.
Well, my name's Todd Lamb. I think you knew that part. I hope others did. Born in Enid, Oklahoma. Born and raised. All my family live in Enid. My wife was born in Ada. Grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma City area. But I grew up in Enid. Graduated from Enid High School. Played football at Louisiana Tech. They were crazy enough to give me a football scholarship. I played there a couple of years, finished up back here and stayed at Oklahoma State. Got my law degree, former Secret Service agent, worked in the Keating administration, did some private sector work in oil and gas and wireless services, and now it's an honor to serve as Lieutenant Governor. Most importantly, husband of 19 years, father of 2.
Tell us a little bit about what life was like before you ran for office.
Well, life was great. Life is great now, but life was great then. I wasn't consumed with running for office. I'm a family man, love spending time with my family, and really to kind of illustrate how life hasn't changed. Before I ran for office, I was a Little League coach. Now that I'm in office, I still volunteer as a coach whenever I can, and it's fun, and life was good. Growing up in Enid, life was great. I had a great, maybe not total Norman Rockwellian growing up, but darn close. In Enid, great parents. So it's been a pleasure. My pre-service was a really enjoyable time and experience. Now that I'm in public service, I enjoy my life just as much.
So take us back to that moment when you decided to run for office and to get involved in public service. Why did you decide to run? What was that experience like?
Well, I was living in a state senate district in the northwest Oklahoma City, Edmond area, and I learned that state senator was term limited. And I thought, well, now might be an interesting time to run. Now, mind you, it was not a perfect time to run. Here's what was going on in my life. I had left the Secret Service, and I was there in the Clinton administration and the beginning of the George W. Bush administration. I was in the Secret Service during 9/11. I performed counterterrorism investigations. So I had left that career, and I was in law school. And I just practiced law for a very, very short time. I used it more in the business side of things. But I was in law school. We'd already had one child. I had a mortgage. I believe Monica was pregnant with our second. And I very sheepishly approached Monica, and I said, I'm thinking about maybe running for office. And she said, let's do it. So she's very encouraging. So that was the process. I thought, this is a crazy time to do it. Not the best time to run for the legislature with everything going on in my life and really in a transition period. But in hindsight, God blessed the effort, and He directed our paths, and I believe He laid that on my heart at the time.
So compare that with your most recent experience here. Just last month, you've been reelected as Oklahoma's Lieutenant Governor, so now for your second term. So what was this campaign and this experience like, running for re-election versus that first time?
Well, much different because it's exponential. You're going from a legislative district in the northwest Oklahoma City, Edmond area, portions of the Deer Creek School District, to the entire state of Oklahoma, for the second time, as you said, the re-election. So it's a very different election effort. The legislative effort, I knocked, I think, maybe 8,000 doors. I think that's what the number finally was. I mean, it's door-to-door retail politics. Statewide, retail for me because I love people and I love spending time with people, but you're not knocking on all the doors around the state because you can't do that. But you go to a lot of parades, you go to a lot of pie suppers, you go to a lot of festivals, and you make the rounds. To show you how retail it was for me, the last 4 days of the campaign, I did a Southeast Oklahoma swing where I hit about 10 or 11 counties. So I went to every county in the re-election effort, and I enjoy doing that. I love getting out and getting around the state.
I want to talk about that a little bit later on, but before we get there, talk to me about the experience in 2010. You're majority floor leader of the Senate, have been involved in some significant policy work in the state, make the decision to run statewide. Was there anyone that you looked up to or reached out to for advice at that time?
Yes. I reached out to 2 individuals. Well, there were more, but the first 2 phone calls I made, I think wanted to Dad. I called my dad. Dad is, I'm very fortunate to have the dad that I have, Norman Lamb. Served in the legislature, served as a football official, served as a Sunday school teacher, served as Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Dad's life was service, service, service. I called Dad and sought his advice. And Dad was a Republican nominee for lieutenant governor in 1982, back when there weren't too many Republicans anywhere in the state of Oklahoma. So I called Dad, asked his advice, and he gave me some pretty good advice, and it was similar advice to the advice I received from my old boss. I called former Governor Frank Keating. I asked him what he thought about a potential run, and they both were very encouraging. My dad's the ultimate encourager, so he encouraged me to run. Frank Keating said, make sure you establish an agenda and you run on that agenda. My dad's advice was, no matter what the polls say, no matter what your friends say, no matter what your opponent says, always run, always campaign like you're one touchdown behind. That's what we did then, and that's what we continue to do.
So after receiving that advice, what finally made you decide, why did you run for lieutenant governor?
Well, I enjoyed my time in the legislature. I really enjoyed policy. I enjoy working on an item, an issue, and moving the needle for the betterment of Oklahoma. So I enjoyed that as a legislator. I wanted to adopt the bully pulpit of lieutenant governor to move the needle even further on some issues that we were having challenges with, namely workers' compensation reform. So I ran for office, and I've said it many times, I want Oklahoma to arrive at a point to where we expect to beat Texas in something besides football. And you just think about our state. We're a very athletic state. We're proud of our athletic prowess. We should be. We're very good at a lot of things. But I want to arrive for an expectation to beat Texas economically. And we have. We've led the nation in net job growth, manufacturing growth, statewide unemployment, our exports on the rise. Things are happening in a positive way in Oklahoma. But that's why I ran for re-election. There's always more work to be done.
In the first 4 years of serving as lieutenant governor and being the small business advocate for the state, jobs in the economy has seemed to have been a pretty big focus for you. Why is that?
Well, because that hits the family. That's what families need. That's what families want. The breakdown of the family often occurs when there are economic challenges. And when there's breakdown of the family, that's when you see a problem in education. That's when you see so many of these social ills that we're challenged with in Oklahoma. Economic growth is so important because it's really a family value, making sure that our moms and dads, our grandparents, and our college graduates and high school graduates, and those we push out of career tech are gainfully employed to strengthen our state.
Folks, we'll be back with more with Lieutenant Governor Lamb right after this.